The hour for convening having arrived, all members will please report to the House and take your seats. All members will report to their seats at this time. Mr. Clerk, would you ring the bell? All members will please take your seats. We are going to have the morning roll call. All members present will please vote green to signify their presence in the chamber, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. Doorkeepers will please close the doors and keep them closed. Well, good morning. Happy Monday to you. Couple of things before we begin today. I just learned, just as I took the podium, that Representative Clint Crow, his mother, is in very, very critical condition. He just lost his father a few weeks ago, so when we pray this morning, let's remember Representative Crow. I also want to say, as I did last Thursday, or ask that we pray for the people of Ukraine this morning. They continue courageously defending their nation against an unwarranted and unprovoked invasion by the Russian Federation. I understand that ceasefire talks have begun, and we will hope and pray that those are successful. It's interesting to note that even Russia's own citizens have turned against their government's incursion, protesting in the streets and being detained as a result of their protest and not cheering on this senseless, barbaric violence. Here at home this morning, our House Budget and Research Office has reached out to all of the state's investment arms, ERS, TRS, and others. We've asked if the state of Georgia holds any investments in Russian equities or other assets, and if so, we will set about work to divest those assets with all due haste. I don't know about y'all, but I don't want one penny of a Georgian's money going to subsidize Vladimir Putin. While our role in international affairs is limited, we make clear that our people stand with those who want to live in peace. Now we will begin our day with scripture reading and prayer by the chaplain, after which we will pledge allegiance to the flag of our country. Our chaplain this morning will be introduced by the lady from the 94th House District, Representative Karen Bennett. Representative Bennett.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and good morning. Today it's my pleasure to introduce our chaplain for today. For many years, you have seen Representative Hughley, Representative Kendrick, and myself come before you each January to hail AKA Day and AKA Founders Day. Today we have a special minister who represents Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. She represents all of Georgia, Florida, and South Carolina. But today, this Mrs. Carolyn G. Randolph from Columbus, Georgia, and the Columbus delegation is here. She is an awesome and tremendous faith leader. She has been a member of the 4th Street Missionary Baptist Church in Columbus, Georgia, for 28 years. She serves as the chairman of the women's ministry, church school teacher, and also she serves as a member of the Christian Education Department. She's a member of the Pastoral Relations Committee and the Deacon Wives Ministry. Mrs. Randolph has made her mark in prayer. She has established a region-wide prayer service every Tuesday night, and so we are just so happy to have with us this faith leader, tremendous woman of God, Mrs. Carolyn G. Randolph from Columbus, Georgia. Ms. Randolph.
To Speaker David Ralston and to all members of the Georgia House of Representatives, good morning. I give honor to God for this opportunity, and I give thanks to you for the invitation. So thank you, Representative Karen Bennett, for this recommendation. Please allow me to acknowledge my representatives here that serve Muskogee County. Thank you so much. I bring you greetings from the beloved pastor and church 4th Street Missionary Baptist Church in Columbus, Georgia, where we are a Bible-based church spiritually taught and led by our pastor, Dr. J.H. Flakes III. As I stand here today, I marvel at the works of God and how he made us. If you can listen to these words with your heart, you will know how special each of you are to him. For in the book of Psalms, David writes in chapter 139, verses 13 and 14, "For it was you who created my inward parts. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I will praise you because I have been fearfully and wonderfully made." Wonderfully made, even though we are not the same race. Wonderfully made, even though we do not have the same background. Yes, wonderfully made, even though we don't have the same thoughts. Wonderfully made. He made each of us differently. We call it today diversity. But God said that despite the fact that we are different, we must love one another. And John 3:18 tells us, "Dear children, let us not love in words or speech, but with actions and in truth." Love. It guides us every day. Love that wakes us up in the morning and rocks us to sleep at night. Love that can penetrate even the hypocrisy of politics. I like to close by sharing a portion of a poem titled "This Moment" by Paul F. Barnett. And it reads, "I may never see tomorrow. There is no written guarantee. And things that happened yesterday belongs to history. I cannot predict the future. I cannot change the past. I have just this present moment. I must treat it as my last. I must use this moment wisely, for it soon will pass away and be lost to me forever as a part of yesterday. I must exercise compassion, help the fallen to their feet, be a friend to the friendless, make an empty life complete. The unkind things I do today may never be undone, and friendships I fail to win may never more be won. I may not have another chance on bended knee to pray and to thank God with humble heart for giving me this day. I may never see tomorrow. Let us pray. Father God, thank you for allowing us to be in this place at this time. Thank you, our Heavenly Father, for allowing each member present today another opportunity to do it right and to get it right. Thank you for your new mercies every day. Although your grace and mercy is beyond our understanding, we stand today as a testimony, as a benefactor, and as a servant. Lord, we come to you today asking a special prayer for Representative Crow. Lift him up, lift his family up, help them to look to the hills from whence cometh all of their help. We bring to you and place at your feet the citizens of Ukraine. Lord, we ask them to raise their hands as Moses did and lift this battle up to you. For you are our sustainer, and you always declare our victory. I pray that your word goes forth with this message empowered by the Holy Spirit. We humbly leave it at your feet in the mighty name of Jesus. Amen. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Doorkeepers will unlock the doors. Chair recognizes Chairman Hogan, the chair of the Committee on Information and Audits.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Information and Audits has read the journal of the previous legislative day and found it to be correct. And furthermore, Mr. Speaker, I prefer not to think before speaking. I like being just as surprised as everyone else at what comes out of my mouth.
You are going to collect all of these over 2 years, are you not? Put them in a book and give the book away free, right? Chairman Hogan, the chair of the Committee on Information and Audits, reports that the journal of the previous legislative day has been read and found to be correct. Is there any objection to the confirmation of the journal? The chair hears none, and the journal is confirmed. The clerk will read the resolution establishing the order of business for the day
Mr. Burns on the 59th moves following be established as the order of business during the first part of the period. Unanimous consents. Introduction of bills and resolutions. First reading and reference of House bills and resolutions. Second reading of bills and resolutions. Reports of standing committees. Third reading and passage of uncontested local bills and resolutions. First reading and reference of Senate bills and resolutions. Morning orders.
Is there any objection to the adoption of the resolution establishing the order of business for the day? The chair hears none, and the resolution is adopted. First reading of bills and resolutions. The clerk will read.
House Bill 1429 by Representative Newton of the 123rd, lot of the 122nd, and Fleming of the 121st. Bill be titled Act to amend Article 3, Chapter 13, and Title 48 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to excise tax on rooms.
Ways and Means.
House Bill 1430 by Representative Williams, the 148th. Bill be titled Act to reconstitute the Board of Education of Crisp County.
Intergovernmental Coordination.
House Bill 1431 by Representative Hitchens, the 161st. A bill being titled Act to provide for the creation of one or more community improvement districts in the city or in Cone.
Intergovernmental Coordination.
House Bill 1432 by Representative Wade of the 9th and Ralston the 7th. A bill being titled Act to amend an act creating a Board of Elections and Registration for Dawson County.
Intergovernmental
House
Coordination.
Bill 1433 by Representative Ballinger the 23rd, Sutzler the 35th, Smith the 70th, and Scoggins the 14th. Bill be titled Act to amend Code Section 35, 6A, 11 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating advisory board created in membership relative.
Judiciary Non-Civil.
House Bill 1434 by Representative Lim of the 99th, Rich of the 97th, Stevens the 64th, Holcomb of the 81st, Gaines the 117th, and others. Bill be titled Act to amend Article 3, Chapter 13, and Title 48. The Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to excise tax on rooms.
Ways and
House
Means.
Bill 1435 by Representative Martin of the 49th, Jones of the 47th, McDonald of the 26th, Gaines of the 117th, LaHood of the 175th, and others. Bill be titled Act to amend Subpart 2A of Part 3 of Article 7 of Chapter 3 of Title 20 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to the needs-based financial aid program.
Higher Education.
House Bill 1436 by Representative Smith of the 41st, Cooper the 43rd, LaHood of the 175th. Bill being titled Act to amend Article 3, Chapter 8, Title 31, the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to long-term care.
Human Relations and Aging.
House Bill 1437 by Representative Blackman of the 146th, Jones of the 47th, McDonald of the 26th, England of the 116th, Williamson of the 115th, and others. Bill being titled Act to amend Chapter 7 of Title 48 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to income taxes.
Ways and Means.
House Bill 1438 by Representative Thomas, the 21st, Jaspers, the 11th, Weed Hour, the 119th, Barton of the 5th, Seaball, the 34th, and others. Bill be titled an Act to amend Chapter 2 of Title 32 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to the Department of
Transportation.
House Bill 1439 by Representative Thomas, the 21st, Gullett of the 19th, Anderson of the 10th, Blackman of the 146th, Ballinger the 23rd, and others. Bill be titled an Act to amend Chapter 36 and Title 36 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to municipal annexation of territory.
Governmental Affairs.
House Bill 1440 by Representative Wilson of the 80th, McLean of the 100th, Schofield of the 60th, and Nguyen of the 89th. Bill being titled Act to amend Chapter 8 of Title 34 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to employment security.
Industry and Labor.
House Bill 1441 by Representative Collins of the 68th, Gravely of the 67th, Hitchens the 161st, Gaines the 117th, and Crow of the 110th. Bill be titled an Act to amend Chapter 38 of Title 43 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to operators of private detective businesses.
Regulated Industries.
House Bill 1442 by Representative Newton of the 123rd, Rose of the 120th, and Williams the 145th. Bill be titled Act to amend Part 1 of Article 1, Chapter 18, and Title 45 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to state employees' health insurance plans.
Special Committee on Access to Quality Health Care.
House Bill 1443 by Representative Gaines, the 117th, Wiedauer, the 119th, Gamble, the 15th, Hagan, the 156th, Cameron, the 1st, and others. Bill be titled Act to amend Article 13, Chapter 2, and Title 26 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to food service establishments.
Agriculture and Consumer Affairs.
House Bill 1448 by Representative Collins, the 68th, Green, the 151st, Fleming, the 121st, Carson, the 46th, Maynard, the 56th. Bill being titled an Act to amend Title 40 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to motor vehicles and traffic.
Public Safety and Homeland Security.
House Bill 1449 by Representative Taylor, the 173rd, Hawkins, the 27th, and Knight of the 130th. Bill be titled Act to amend Article 7, Chapter 4, Title 49 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to medical assistance generally.
Health and Human Services.
House Bill 1450 by Representative Rich of the 97th, Tankersley the 160th, Campbell the 131st, Hagan of the 156th, Oliver the 82nd, and others. Bill be titled Act to amend Chapter 8 of Title 4 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to dogs.
Agriculture and Consumer Affairs.
House Bill 1451 by Representative McLaurin of the 51st and Gilligan of the 24th. Bill be titled Act to amend Code Section 27.5.5 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to wild animals.
Agriculture and Consumer Affairs.
House Bill 1452 by Representative Gaines of the 117th, Smith of the 18th, Saints of the 180th, Gravely of the 67th, McLaurin of the 51st, and others. Bill be titled Act to amend Chapter 13A of Title 19 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to dating, violence,
Judiciary
protection
Non-Civil.
House Bill 1453 by Representative Cooper, the 43rd, Gravely, the 67th, Fry, the 118th, Smyrie, the 135th, Hatchet of the 150th, and others. Bill be titled Act to amend Chapter 12 of Title 16 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to offenses against public health and morals.
Health and Human Services.
House Bill 1454 by Representative Evans of the 83rd, Parker the 101st, Smith the 41st, Couch of the 50th, Oliver the 82nd, and others. Bill be titled Act to amend Article 2, Chapter 2, Title 46 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to general jurisdiction.
Energy, Utilities, and Telecommunications.
House Bill 1455 by Representative Hitchens, the 161st, Petrie the 166th, Stevens the 164th, Mallow with the 163rd, Gilliard of the 162nd. Bill be titled Act to amend Chapter 2 of Title 52 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to Georgia Ports Authority.
Public Safety and Homeland Security.
House Bill 1456 by Representative Shannon, the 84th, Holly of the 111th, Wynn of the 89th, Cannon of the 58th, Scott of the 76th, and others. Bill be titled Act to amend Code Section 38.3.182 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to establishment of Georgia Emergency Communications Authority.
Public Safety and Homeland Security.
House Bill 1457 by Representative Fry, the 118th, Evans the 57th, Alexander the 66th, McLaurin of the 51st, Lim of the 99th, and others. Bill be titled Act to amend Title 34 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to labor and industrial relations.
Industry and Labor.
House Bill 1458 by Representative Fry, the 118th, Schofield of the 60th, Nelson of the 125th, Alexander the 66th, Lim of the 99th, and others. Bill be titled an Act to amend Article 4, Chapter 3 of Title 8 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to fair housing.
Judiciary.
House Bill 1459 by Representative Donahue the 30th, Barr the 103rd, Leverett the 33rd, Hawkins the 27th, Singleton the 71st, and others. Bill be titled Act to amend Title 48 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated related to revenue and taxation.
Ways and Means.
House Bill 1460 by Representative Gunner of the 8th, Green of the 151st, Buckner of the 137th, Anderson of the 10th, Powell of the 32nd, and others. Bill be titled Act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 7, Title 52 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to registration, operation, sale of watercraft.
Game, Fish, and Parks.
House Bill 1461 by Representative Anderson of the 10th, Jones the 47th, Hawkins the 27th, Taylor the 173rd, Thomas the 21st, and others. Bill be titled Act to amend Chapter 36 and Title 36 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to annexation of territory.
Governmental Affairs.
House Resolution 841 by Representative Houston of the 170th, a resolution honoring the life of Senator Alvin Rowan.
Transportation.
House Resolution 842 by Representative Cantrell of the 22nd, Williams of the 168th, Nixon of the 69th, Mitchell of the 88th, Clark of the 147th, and others. A resolution proposing an amendment to the Constitution.
Budget and Fiscal Affairs Oversight.
House Resolution 843 by Representative Schofield, the 60th, Parker, the 101st, Davis, the 87th, Scott of the 76th, Kennard of the 102nd. A resolution recognizing and commending the National HIV/AIDS Strategy for the United States.
Health and Human Services.
House Resolution 844 by Representative Donahue, the 30th, Kelly, the 16th, Benton, the 31st, Byrd of the 20th, Cantrell of the 22nd, and others. A resolution expressing condemnation of Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau.
Rules.
House Resolution 845 by Representative Taylor of the 173rd, Saints of the 180th, and Anderson of the 10th. A resolution proposing an amendment to the Constitution.
Governmental Affairs.
Senate Bill 397 by Senator Goodman of the 8th, Tippins of the 37th, Payne of the 54th, Sims of the 12th, Redd of the 33rd, and others. The bill to be entitled an act to amend titles 15, 20, 25, 40, 42, and 43 of the official code of Georgia annotated relating to courts.
Higher education.
Senate Bill 435 by Senator Hartman to the 16th, Miller to the 49th, Hatcher to the 50th, Robertson to the 29th, Mullis to the 53rd, and others. Bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 20 of the official code of Georgia annotated relating to education.
Health and Human Services.
Senate Bill 505 by Senator Robertson to the 29th, Mullis to the 53rd, Albers to the 56th, Miller to the 49th, and Kirkpatrick to the 32nd. Bill be entitled an act to amend Code Section 35.823, 38.3, 181, and 46.5, 138.2 of the official code of Georgia annotated relating to basic training.
Public Safety and Homeland Security.
Senate Resolution 477 by Senator Mullis, the 53rd, Miller, the 49th, Robertson, the 29th, Harbison, the 15th, Kennedy, the 18th, and others. Resolution creating the Joint Music Heritage Study Committee.
Creative Arts and Entertainment.
That completes first readers.
Second reading of bills and resolutions. The clerk will read.
House Bill 1407 by Representative Green of the 151st. A bill to amend an act providing a new charter for the city of Dawson. House Bill 1408 by Representative Green of the 151st. A bill to amend an act providing a new charter for the city of Shellman. House Bill 1409 by Representative Werkheiser of the 157th. A bill relating to workers' compensation. House Bill 1410 by Representative Schofield of the 60th, Beverly of the 143rd, Mitchell of the 88th, Alexander of the 66th, and Burnell of the 77th. A bill relating to elections and primaries. House Bill 1411 by Representative Rhodes of the 120th and Williams of the 145th. A bill to amend an act to revise, modernize, and consolidate the provisions of local law relating to the State Court of Putnam County. House Bill 1412 by Representative Rhodes of the 120th. A bill to amend an act to provide for certain officials of the Greene County who have served at least 15 years in office may, upon leaving, continue to participate in the county health insurance program. House Bill 1413 by Representative Rhodes of the 120th and Saines of the 180th. A bill relating to local government. House Bill 1414 by Representative Carpenter of the 4th, Williamson of the 115th, Blackman of the 146th, Jaspers of the 11th, Knight of the 130th, and others. A bill relating to income taxes. House Bill 1415 by Representative Hutchinson of the 107th, Hughley of the 136th, Thomas of the 39th, Paris of the 142nd, Schofield of the 60th. A bill relating to general provisions regarding adoption. House Bill 1416 by Representative Schofield of the 60th, Scott of the 76th, Clark of the 108th, Davis of the 87th, Hutchinson of the 107th. A bill relating to student health in elementary and secondary education. House Bill 1419 by Representative Earhart of the 36th, Knight of the 130th, Setzler of the 35th, and Carson of the 46th. A bill relating to general provisions relative to education accountability. House Bill 1420 by Representative Buckner of the 137th, Williams of the 145th, Holcomb of the 81st, Crow of the 110th. A bill relating to DNA sampling, collection, and analysis. House Bill 1421 by Representative Buckner of the 137th, Watson of the 172nd, Nix of the 69th, Smith of the 133rd, Fry of the 118th. A bill relating to hazardous site response. House Bill 1422 by Representative Gilligan of the 24th, Byrd of the 20th, and Singleton of the 71st. A bill to amend the Georgia Entertainment Industry Investment Act. House Bill 1423 by Representative Buckner of the 137th, Hughley of the 136th, Burnell of the 77th, Bazemore of the 63rd, and Holcomb of the 81st. A bill relating to children and youth services. House Bill 1424 by Representative Powell of the 32nd, Wilkerson of the 38th, Mitchell of the 88th, Gunter of the 8th, Hatcher of the 150th, and others. A bill relating to the Georgia Lottery for Education Act. House Bill 1425 by Representative Werkheiser of the 157th, Newton of the 123rd, Gravely of the 67th, Holcomb of the 81st. A bill relating to access to medical cannabis. House Bill 1426 by Representative Moore of the 95th, Werkheiser of the 157th, Gunter of the 8th, Scoggins of the 14th, Holcomb of the 81st. A bill relating to criminal procedure. House Bill 1427 by Representative Moore of the 90th, Beverly of the 143rd, Bennett of the 94th, Tankersley of the 160th, Smith of the 70th. A bill relating to regulation and construction of hospitals and other healthcare facilities. House Bill 1428 by Representative Astration of the 104th. A bill to amend the official code of Georgia annotated so as to revise, modernize, correct errors or omissions in, reenact the statutory portion of said code. House Bill 1444 by Representative Nix of the 69th, Smith of the 70th, Bonner of the 72nd, Smith of the 18th, Smith of the 133rd, and others. A bill to amend an act providing a supplemental salary for the judges of the Superior Court of Coweta Judicial Circuit. House Bill 1445 by Representative Deloach of the 167th. A bill to amend an act to recreate and establish the Board of Commissioners of Long County. House Bill 1446 by Representative Wilson of the 80th, Holcomb of the 81st, Evans of the 83rd, and Oliver of the 82nd. A bill to amend an act to authorize the governing authority of the city of Brookhaven to levy an excise tax. House Bill 1447 by Representative Fleming of the 121st, a bill to authorize the city of Grovetown, Georgia to exercise all redevelopment and other powers under the Redevelopment Powers Law. House Resolution 820 by Representative England of the 116th, resolution honoring the life of Mr. James J. Boss dedicating an intersection in his memory, House Resolution 821 by Representative England of the 116th, a resolution honoring the life of Mr. Sexius Milner and dedicating a road in his memory, House Resolution 822 by Representative Stevens of the 164th, Rhodes of the 120th, Deloach of the 167th, Williams of the 168th, a resolution stating Georgia's opposition to the shark fin trade, House Resolution 823 by Representative Schofield of the 60th, Scott of the 76th, Davis of the 87th, Beverly of the 143rd, Mitchell of the 88th, and others. Resolution creating the House Study Committee on Pharmacy Deserts. Senate Bill 395 by Senator Hatchett of the 50th, a bill relating to the number of judges of Superior Courts. Senate Bill 449 by Senator Dixon of the 45th, Tippins of the 37th, Payne of the 54th, Kennedy of the 18th, Hatchett of the 50th, and others. A bill relating to review of removal of students in elementary and secondary education. Senate Bill 469 by Senator Harper of the 7th, Jen of the 47th, Davenport of the 44th, Jackson of the 41st, Brass of the 28th, and others. A bill relating to general provisions of registration, operation, and sale of watercraft through second readers.
Reports of standing committees. The clerk will read.
Representative Jan Tigersley, the 160th District Chairman of the Committee on Intergovernmental Coordination Local, submitted the following report from the Speaker Committee on Intergovernmental Coordination Local. Is that under consideration the following bills in the Senate? Is instructed me to report the same back to the House with following recommendations. Senate Bill 522, due pass, respectfully submitted. Representative Jan Tigersley, the 160th District Chairman. Representative Robert Dickey, the 140th District Chairman of the Committee on Agriculture and Consumer Affairs, submitted the following report from the Speaker of the Committee on Agriculture and Consumer Affairs. Set under consideration the following bills of the House. Instructed me to report the same back to the House with the following recommendations. House Bill 1150, due pass by committee substitute. House Bill 1175, due pass by committee substitute, respectfully submitted. Representative Robert Dickey, the 140th District Chairman. That completes the reading of the reports of standing committees.
We're going on now to the local calendar. Going on to the local calendar. Third reading and passage of uncontested local bills. Y'all may not be able to hear me. If there is no objection, we will vote on the local calendar as a whole with a recorded vote. Hearing none, it is so ordered. The clerk will read the local calendar.
Senate Bill 522 by Senator Robertson, the 29th, Harris County.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered on the local calendar? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill on the local calendar will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines on the passage of the bill on the local calendar. The ayes are 139, The nays are 8. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. What purpose does Representative Taylor rise?
The machine's messed up. She's just mixing.
We got a machine problem?
Yes.
All right. Mr. Clerk, can you check that out, please? Maybe we can get that fixed by the time we get back on the rules calendar. We're going on now to morning orders. Morning orders. Okay, we have a rule change. Actually, the rule hasn't changed, but the time has under the rules. We're now on legislative day 21, which means that the total collective time on morning orders is 10 minutes. 10 minutes. Chair is going to allot 45 seconds each for morning orders. It's the best we can do if everybody wants to be heard. Chair recognizes Representative Walensky for a morning order.
Thank you, Speaker. I got 45 seconds, so this is going to be like Micro Machine Guy, but look at this picture up here, y'all. Scott Arrigotti posted this yesterday, and it's gotten 27,000 shares on Facebook. Look at this guy, 45 years old, Jewish, got a cute wife, by all indications adores his 2 young kids. This picture feels like one I scroll past on my Facebook feed every day. May as well be a stock photo from a buddy's kid's birthday party yesterday. And yet this is the same guy, is the democratically elected, charismatic head of state of the largest country in Europe, whose courage in cleverly fighting back Putin's tyranny at a terrifying, real, and likely fatal danger to both himself and everyone else in this picture is inspiring, both in his nation and the world. The human tip of the spear, leading humanity in our suddenly hot global fight to defend freedom. Read that paragraph. I can't finish. But y'all, so much politics and foreign policy can be messy and multi-layered, and therefore often hard to properly adjudicate right versus wrong, good versus bad. This one is not that, and I'm in awe of this man's bravery. I know I read that fast, but thank you for the post, Scott Arrigotti.
Chair recognizes Representative Kausha for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Colleagues, the war in Ukraine hits home for me much closer than maybe some of you may understand. And just to give you an idea, the distance from Berlin to the Ukraine border is about the same as the distance from Atlanta to Richmond, Virginia. When I talk to friends and family in Germany, they are more than concerned, they are scared. They talk about World War III, and that includes the possibility of a nuclear war. While Ukrainians defend their country, their family, and their lives, we cannot dismiss that war is testing Western alliances to the core. After all, freedom is not free. I grew up in West Germany during the Cold War. I knew I could depend on the Western alliance to defend us. But now the threat has become grave. My heart goes out to Ukrainians, and we need to rein in Russian autocratic aggression sooner rather than later for the sake of all of us, because our freedom depends on it. Thank you.
If anyone wants to carry their morning order over till tomorrow, come see Betsy, because not everybody's going to be reached today. Chair recognizes Representative Al Williams, Representative DeLoach, Chairman Hitchens, and Chairman Werkheiser for a morning order. And that includes all of the members of the Savannah delegation.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We rise this morning because the atrocities in Ukraine has reached close to home. This past week, after the invasion, 3,800 troops from the 3rd ID at Fort Stewart were deployed, and the 165th Air National Guard from Fort Stewart Hunter Army Airfield were deployed. These young men and women are now in harm's way. And this is a time when we all must come together and support this effort. Now we have young men and young women who came from Georgia, did not question why, but mounted up and went prepared to meet this aggression wherever it may happen. Regardless of political affiliation, this is now an American question. Do we, the builders of the greatest democracy in the history of the world, stand for what we have spoken about for many generations? Since 1941, troops from Fort Stewart have answered the call, wherever it might be. So I'm going to ask you now, if you would join me in a moment of prayer for the safety of our troops. Almighty and everlasting God, we come before you, Lord, asking you to put your hedge of protection around these brave young men and women who must now go and have called upon, defend Ukraine or defend these United States of America. Lord, we ask you to remember the families that are left behind. Give them comfort and peace as they wonder anxiously about their loved ones. And Lord, we also ask you to cleave to the top of the mouth any tongue that speaks negatively about this mission. Lord, some things are bigger than any of us, but being an American citizen carries some responsibility, and that is to aggressively defend these freedoms that we so enjoy. We thank you, Lord. Thank you for this opportunity. We know with the odds against them in Ukraine means nothing, because the battle is not yours, it's the Lord's. And we depend on his decision as to which way this will go. We ask this blessing in the name of the majestic one, Jesus the Christ. Amen. Rocket 'em on.
Chair recognizes Representative Leverett and Representative Prince for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just wanted to take a brief moment here on the last day of February to say a few words about a dear friend, Judge Jack Ruffin. It's been about 12 years since we lost him, but his legacy endures. He was from Augusta, but his legacy extends to all of Georgia. He was a man of many firsts. He was the first African-American member of the Augusta Bar. He was the first African-American judge on the Augusta Judicial Circuit and the first chief judge of the Georgia Court of Appeals. Above all, he was a man known for his keen intellect and his rapier-sharp, quick wit. You never knew what Judge Ruffin was going to say to disarm you. And he was a fierce advocate and attorney for the causes he represented. My father litigated against him, but always said that no matter how zealous he was always courteous and kind to everybody, including those with whom he disagreed. He was a man of tremendous integrity, and I just wanted to say a few words about him this morning. Would we all have such a legacy as Judge Ruffin? Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Campbell. Representative Campbell for a morning order.
Thank you, Speaker. I appreciate it. I come to the well just to tell you that Carl Shiver, a very good friend of mine, and also worked together for 35 years, was rushed into open heart surgery just a little while ago, so I solicit your prayers, my prayers for success, and a moment of silence for him at this time. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Chairman LaHood and Representative Burnow for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We rise today to recognize Alzheimer's Awareness Day at the Georgia State Capitol today. There are over 150,000 Georgians currently living with Alzheimer's, and a lot more that are living with Alzheimer's but undiagnosed. There are over 300,000 caregivers who provide care, a lot of unpaid care valued at close to $9 billion. So thank you for helping us recognize our Alzheimer's Awareness Day at the Capitol. And they're doing their advocacy day virtually this year because of the uncertainties when they were planning around COVID. But they are present, and they appreciate your support. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Thank you. I know that there are several members in this house that have lost their parent or somebody really close to them due to Alzheimer's, and I lost my mother due to Alzheimer's, and I just wanted us to do a quick moment of silence just for our family members and our friends. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Frazier for a morning order. Representative Frazier. She waves. And that completes our time for today. If we didn't get to you, come see the messenger and sign back up. But we are out of time for morning orders today, and we're going on now to the rules calendar. Going on to the rules calendar. The clerk will read the caption to House Bill 1274.
House Bill 1274 by Representative Carson, the 46th, and others to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 1 entitled 50 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to general provisions relative to state government so as to provide for the definition of anti-Semitism. This bill having referred to the Committee on Judiciary, that committee recommends that this bill do pass.
Chair recognizes Chairman Carson to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is House Bill 1274. This bill codifies a definition of anti-Semitism for the first time. It codifies the definition as per the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance, IHRA, which is now the consensus international standard because it can be utilized to objectively assess all ideological forms of anti-Semitism. The IHRA definition is used by the U.S. Department of Education, Department of Justice, and Department of State. It is also adopted by the European Union, 34 countries of the IHRA, and nearly 24 other countries, including states of South Carolina and Florida, and we think many more to continue. The support for codifying a definition of anti-Semitism is nonpartisan, and the Federal Anti-Semitism Awareness Act passed the Senate by unanimous consent. There's been a couple of questions in regard to this legislation. One is, why don't we take the definition that the IHRA scripted out and replace that into our code? And the reason we don't want to do that is we don't want to attack a lot of edits to this. We want to rely on what the IHRA defines as anti-Semitism. And I'm going to read it for you because I apologize. It might be in some of the flyers that the pro-Jewish groups handed out, but I'm going to read it for you. Anti-Semitism is a certain perception of Jews which may be expressed as hatred toward Jews. Rhetorical and physical manifestations of anti-Semitism are directed toward Jewish or non-Jewish individuals
and or their property toward Jewish community institutions and religious facilities. So folks, I wanted to ask you to support this bill to finally put into code a definition of anti-Semitism. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I will yield the will if there's no questions.
You do have questions.
I will take one question, sir.
Chair recognizes Representative Jasmine Clark to your left for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, ma'am.
First, I want to thank you for acknowledging that anti-Semitism has no place in our state, in our country, and I really applaud the goals that you seek to accomplish with this bill, but I do have some concerns, so I want to just start with, you read out the definition that would be the code in our Georgia code, but you did not read out the several bullet points that follow that definition. Will those bullet points also be a part of our Georgia code if we sign on to this?
If we sign into this in this forum, I think what the lady is talking about are the contemporary examples of anti-Semitism. And there's been some debate of that back and forth. What we would like to do is get this bill passed so that we codify anti-Semitism. If we go back and forth about this example or that example, or we're going to refer to this or that or what have you, we could go on and on. I mean, there are a page or more of the various examples. What we're more interested in is making sure there's a clear definition as opposed to picking and choosing examples. But I appreciate the question.
Does the gentleman further yield?
Yes, ma'am.
So that's actually my question. I want to clarify. Are we only codifying that 3-line definition that you read out, or are we also codifying the contemporary examples also listed in the working definition?
We are only codifying the working definition,
so
the 3 lines.
All right. And then does the gentleman yield for one final question?
Yes, ma'am.
So the IHRA states on that website where they have the working definition that this is really meant to be more for education and is not meant to be legally binding. And the author of the definition itself had expressed concerns that this could be used to chill free speech. And so he said that he did not want it to become law. If they express that they don't want it to be legally binding, then why are we legally binding it today?
What I would remind the lady is lines 50 to 53 of the bill, and if you would go to that to section C, nothing in this code section shall be construed to diminish or infringe upon any right protected under the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution or the Georgia Constitution. So free speech rights are protected here. What this is in regard to is a working definition of anti-Semitism when it comes to crimes.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With that, I know there are some other speakers in regard to this legislation, so I will yield the will, sir.
There are other speakers. Chair recognizes Representative Becky Evans to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, colleagues. I rise today out of a deep love for this body and for the Jewish people and for all people who have experienced discrimination and prejudice in their lives. I rise today to speak against this bill, House Bill 1274. I just realized today that this bill would be on the floor, so I am going to use my time to read a opinion piece from some Jewish Georgian friends about this. We are Jewish Georgians who personally know that anti-Semitism is dangerous, life-threatening, and growing. However, we oppose the passage of Georgia House Bill 1274, which attempts to provide a legal definition of anti-Semitism. The problem with the bill is that it uses the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance, IHRA, definition of anti-Semitism, which includes examples of criticism of Israel as anti-Semitic. The idea that political criticism of a nation state is the same as hatred and violence against someone because they are Jewish has become a powerful tool in the hands of those who work to silence Palestinian voices. This specious application of the charge of anti-Semitism has already had a chilling effect on free speech and advocacy for Palestinian rights across the country. Pro-Israel activists have used it to silence people calling for a boycott of Israel, to cancel protests, speeches, and university lectures on Palestine, to prevent university students from forming a student group advocating for justice for Palestinians, and to pressure Facebook, Zoom, and YouTube to shut down webinars that feature Palestinian speakers. The IHRA definition of anti-Semitism is far from being internationally accepted. In fact, scholars worldwide specializing in the Holocaust, Jewish, and Middle East studies purposefully gathered to craft the Jerusalem Declaration of Anti-Semitism, claiming that the IHRA definition has caused confusion and generated controversy, hence weakening the fight against anti-Semitism. Many Jewish organizations and individuals, including, as Representative Clark mentioned, the definition's lead drafter, Kenneth Stern, have objected to his use as a weapon to suppress free speech. Stern has written, "If you think this isn't about suppressing political speech, contemplate a parallel. There is no definition of anti-black racism that has the force of law. If you were to craft one, would you include opposition to affirmative action? To include opposing removal of Confederate statues?" The effect of applying the IHRA definition have been found to be problematic throughout the country. If made into Georgia law, this conflation of anti-Semitism and legitimate criticism of Israel will not eliminate hate, bigotry, and acts of violence. It will only serve to blur the meaning of real anti-Semitism and to discredit the struggle against it. Jewish people are already protected under the Civil Rights Act of 1964. We need our lawmakers to uphold these existing laws to protect Jewish people and other targeted groups. We don't need a law that violates our First Amendment right to free speech. With that, I conclude my comments, and I ask you to join me in voting no on HB 1274.
You have no question. You do have a question.
Okay.
Do you yield?
Yes, I yield.
Chair recognizes Chairman F. Stration to your left for a question.
Does the gentlelady yield?
Yes.
Ma'am, isn't it true that the examples that you cited were examples in the definition that are not included in the definition as incorporated into the bill here?
That is what the speaker before me said.
Okay, so isn't it true that even if there were examples that went to if criticizing the state of Israel would be captured, those examples aren't part of the legislation that's before the House now?
I would agree that's true. I would also add, though, that the use of this type of law can be used to suppress those questions. That is the fear of the people that are opposing this bill.
Do you further yield?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes Representative Stacey Evans to your left for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the lady yield?
Yes, I do.
We all seem to be on the same page that the illustrations are illustrations, the definition is the definition. But since no one has read any of the illustrations, I wanted to see if you would agree with me that the very first illustration says, criticism of Israel similar to that leveled against any other country cannot be regarded as anti-Semitic. Do you agree with me that that's in the illustrations?
I'm sorry, can you repeat it one more time?
Criticism of Israel similar to that leveled against any other country cannot be regarded as anti-Semitic. Do you agree with me that that's in the very first illustration?
That is true. Criticism of Israel cannot be regarded as anti-Semitic.
And do you further agree with me that one of the other illustrations says specifically, applying double standards by requiring of it a behavior not expected or demanded of any other democratic nation is also an illustration, meaning it cannot be considered that we wouldn't expect the people of Israel not to stand up for their country any less than we would expect Americans to stand up for them. Isn't that the kind of protection that we're talking about in here for the people of Israel, not Israel as a state? Do you agree with me that that's in the illustrations?
I'm not sure I would agree with that.
Thank you.
Questions?
I yield the well.
Lady has yielded the well. Chair recognizes Representative Holly to, okay, he waved, I'm sorry. Chair recognizes Representative Walensky to speak to the bill.
Thank you all, Speaker. I don't speak for the Jewish people today. I speak for myself. I didn't pick this, but I am the only Jewish person in the Georgia legislature right now. What is anti-Semitism? If I asked you right now, would you be able to tell me what anti-Semitism is? It's complicated, because Judaism is a national origin, it's a race, it's a religion. You can't compare this to a race. You can't compare this to an identity because it is more complex. The state of Israel was founded through a democratic process. It wasn't given, it was voted to have an Israeli state and a Palestinian state. But this bill is not about that in any way. This is about Georgia and how we're going to protect Jewish people, how we're going to define anti-Semitism, and why we need to define it. Anti-Semitism comes in many forms. It comes in many ways. And at any point in time right now, if we're looking in a setting of criminal or civil or otherwise, a prosecutor or otherwise can say almost anything is anti-Semitism. That's why we need these guardrails today. We heard before that there's some suggestion that should be for learning. Well, people are going to learn. When we put it in the Georgia Code and people learn what anti-Semitism is, and we teach them what not to do, how not to compare or call out Jewish people, that's what we're doing today. We are making sure the use of anti-Semitism is not used improperly, but we give a specific definition of what it is. And it's true, as Representative asked, it says in those examples that criticism of Israel similar to that leveled against any other country cannot be regarded as anti-Semitism, because it's not. When we talk about United States or other countries or Israel as a country, as a government, that's fine. But when we say Jewish people are doing something, when we say Jewish people run something, control something, or acting like something, that's anti-Semitism. In no way does this limit the free speech of Israel. This bill in no way limits the free speech against Israel, sorry. You can speak out against Israel once this bill is passed. You can do it passionately. You can say the government is not treating another country well, just like you would do any other country in war right now. Hatred is born of ignorance. What we are doing today is we are helping people not be ignorant about what anti-Semitism is. I yield for questions, Speaker.
You have a question if you care to yield.
I'll yield.
Chair recognizes Chairman Parsons to your left for a question.
Thank you, Speaker. Is the gentleman yield?
Yes.
Well, isn't it true? First of all, I'm trying real hard to, I want to support the bill, but I do have questions about it. And help me, I'm not an attorney, I don't know if you are or not, but I'm struggling with we have, and the bill talks about definitions of anti-Semitism, but is there any place in law that you know of, it doesn't seem to be in this bill, is there any definition of a Semite, of what Semitism is? Because it seems to me from looking at definitions in dictionaries, the definition of Semitism, a Semite, goes beyond Jew and goes on beyond to Arabs and people from that region of the country. I mean, is that true or is it not true?
Is what true or not true that
Is it not
Semite
true
means
that-
multiple things?
Yeah, well, first of all, is it not true that there is no definition in the bill of a Semite? I'm also asking if you know if there is any definition in Georgia law as to what a Semite is. I guess those are my two core questions. Can you, if you can answer those? I'm really trying to find a way to want to support this bill.
Yeah, well, I'd love you to support this bill. So right now, anti-Semitism is at an all-time high, worse than before World War II. I've gotten a call in the past 3 months about anti-Semitic acts against elementary school students, middle school students from 4 different counties. We've seen it on our college campuses. We see it in the news almost every day. So why we are defining anti-Semitism today is to show what anti-Semitism is. I can't speak of other definitions in the code and other meanings. I've never actually heard a question asked about, I've never heard a question like that. It's my 4th year, and I understand we're defining this today, but let me break down the word and ask you about this other word. So today we're defining anti-Semitism and focusing on that.
Well, does the gentleman further yield? And
Yes.
also, if we're defining anti-Semitism, it would seem to me, isn't it true, that there needs to be a definition of what a Semite is, or what Semitism is. And if you look in the dictionaries, it goes beyond the Jewish people.
Okay. So I think what's helpful here is if Semite is already defined in our dictionary, we don't need it in the Georgia Code. However, what anti-Semitism is really complex, and that's why we're choosing to apply that here today.
Well, if you'll yield for one more, then I will sit down.
Yeah.
But your definition, it would seem to be in conflict with lines 24 and 25 of this bill. Is that not true?
Can you read those lines, please?
This is in the definition from the IHRA. Contemporary manifestations of anti-Semitism and include useful examples of discriminatory anti-Israel acts that can cross the line into anti-Semitism.
That is a factual statement that, unfortunately, right now, people say anti-Semitic things, but hiding it by when they're speaking about Israel. But really, when people are talking about the Jewish people doing actions, doing harmful things, when they're actually saying it about the Israeli government that they disagree, that's fine. We can disagree with governments. We disagree with our own government. We disagree with our president. That's fine. But when you say the Jewish people is doing something, that's anti-Semitic.
Thank you.
You've got several questions if you care to yield.
I'll yield for another question.
Chair recognizes Chairman Setzler to your right for a question.
Does the gentleman yield?
Yes.
Appreciate the debate on this. I appreciate we're getting into the weeds. I want to ask the question. I'm just struggling with line 42 says, as used in this code section, the term anti-Semitism has the same meaning as provided for the working definition of anti-Semitism in International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance, May 26, 2016. Why don't we just take the language from that and write it into our code? If we want Georgians to understand that, this is the law. This is the shalls of the state of Georgia. Why don't we take that language and write it plainly in the law? Is my first question. I have one more follow-up.
That's a great question, Representative. The reason is the IHRA definition is an international definition. It's been applied by it's been accepted by 30 countries, including our own, over 20 different states. And that definition as a whole stands for itself. And I understand this body and you and many in here are smart people, but this bill has to go to the other side, to the Senate, where if that IRA definition was in there, they may want to pick and choose, but that's not what we're doing here. We're here to say the IRA definition clearly expresses what anti-Semitism is and isn't, and that's what we're applying here today. And we don't need to mess with that definition because it's accepted. Speaker, I yield the well.
Gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. What purpose does Representative Clark rise?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Parliamentary Inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Is it not true that during the committee hearing on this bill, Mr. David Goldman, who is of the ACLU and who is also Jewish, spoke against this bill and said that they oppose this bill because it could chill free speech?
I was not at the committee hearing. What purpose does Representative Holly rise?
Parliamentary Inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Is it not true that while I have the highest respect for the sponsor of this bill and to North Springs High School graduates as we are, and very definitely a lot of respect for the Jewish people, that I certainly respect more so the Jewish Voices definition of anti-Semitism, and I know that this one unfortunately will be used against teachers in colleges, and therefore I will be voting no against it.
Gentleman so states. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the passage of the bill, the ayes are 141, the nays are 19. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 1064.
House Bill 1064, to be entitled an act to amend Article 2 of Chapter 7 of Title 48 of the Official Code of Georgia, Annotated, relating to imposition, rate computation, exemptions, and credits from state income tax. This bill having referred to the Committee on Ways and Means, that committee recommends that this bill do pass.
Chair recognizes Chairman Petrie to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And ladies and gentlemen of the House, I'm proud to present to you today House Bill 1064. This bill is a priority for Governor Kemp for this session. And as I think all of you are aware, we need to first acknowledge that we have here in Georgia and in this chamber in particularly addressed a multitude of issues to address making Georgia a military and a veteran-friendly state. But there is one more important thing we can do, and I think that is the bill we're looking at today. This is probably the most important thing I think we can do to complete that effort. So very simply, this bill exempts up to $17,500 of income received from military retirement benefits from state income tax for individuals under 62 years of age. And I want to emphasize that because remember, at 62, we already, between 62 and 64, already have an exemption based on all retirement income, and it increases at 64 to $65,000. So this is targeted to individuals leaving military service under 62. Moreover, this bill exempts an additional $17,500 in military retirement benefits from state income tax for those individuals if they work and earn at least $17,500 from another source. So these individuals are going to leave military service from a career in military service, typically around 20 years. you discover that the average age of individuals retiring from military service between 42 and 47. And this bill is very much focused on encouraging those individuals to live and to work in Georgia. And so, in the aggregate, a career military retiree could earn, with this measure, a total exemption of $35,000. This bill rewards men and women who have sacrificed the most for this country, but it also addresses the number one need we hear every day back home from our businesses and industry: workforce. This bill is targeted to encouraging these men and women who are skilled and disciplined and patriotic men and women coming out of military service to live and to work in Georgia, where they're needed so much by our industry and across the state. It also deals with one final issue I want to point out today, and that is an issue of a current disincentive for these men and women to live in Georgia, especially in border counties like my own, Chairman Smith and Columbus, me in Savannah and Augusta, my colleagues there, Valdosta. My friends, these individuals can cross a river and save 5.75% of their income. It's a real disincentive we have today. And this addresses that issue because currently in every border state that borders Georgia, they have already addressed this issue in some manner or another. And so it's very important that we deal with that disincentive. That very simply is what we do and seek to accomplish in this bill. Mr. Speaker, I'm glad to answer any questions there may be in this matter.
You got a couple of questions if you care to yield.
Yes, sir. I'm glad to yield.
Chair recognizes Chairman Heath Clark.
Yep.
To your left for a question.
To my friend, will you yield?
Yes, I yield.
Isn't it true that as the chairman of the Defense and Veterans Affairs Committee, that even though this body has done numerous things to help out veterans and service members in this state, that this is still the number one issue that I hear people calling and asking for us to do something regarding?
Mr. Chairman, I believe that is correct. I cannot tell you how many, all through the years, how often I hear from veterans or those that are getting close to retiring, and they're very interested. They follow this, and they know which states are most military friendly.
That's
Absolutely,
correct.
sir.
Further
That
question?
is correct.
Further question?
Yes, I yield.
And many of those people that call, they're service members that are serving. They're sons and daughters of Georgia, but they're retiring and from their service in another state, and they're wanting to move back home to be near their family that they grew up with, but it doesn't make economic sense for them to do so because the state that they're in, there or in other states have this incentive. So this would encourage people who are retiring in other states to come back home or to move to Georgia to supply the workforce needs, not only also keep the ones that are retiring in our state to stay here, since they know the missions that are already at the base that they're retiring at, that many of those people will stay here too. So this will be a huge economic incentive for them and for the state of Georgia to get the workforce needs that it requires.
I believe that to be true, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman, for this bill.
Thank you.
Do you continue to yield?
Mr. Speaker, I believe I'll yield the will.
I'm just going to give you a little guidance here. You have 9 questions lined up. Okay, we have other members that wish to be heard on the bill too. Chair recognizes the governor's floor leader, Representative Bonner, to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, colleagues. This morning I rise in support of House Bill 1064, and I know that so many of you support this measure as well, but I just want to take a quick opportunity to highlight the importance of this, because this is one of those few instances in our legislative careers that we get to do something that is not only good, but we get to do something that is absolutely right. So many times during the course of my 24-year career as an Army officer, I'll be traveling in uniform out in the community, airport, things like that. And inevitably someone will come up to me and say, thank you for your service. That's a common refrain that we hear and that we give out to our service members. But this is an opportunity for us as a state, as a collective legislature, to not only say thank you for your service, but to actually put something into motion that will actually thank those for their service. This is an opportunity, as Representative Petrie mentioned, not only an issue of workforce development, but it's absolutely the right thing to do. This is also the culmination of years of work by members of our body, to include Chairman Clark, Chairman Belton, Representative Williams, Dean Smyrie, so many of those that have taken an interest in Veterans Affairs. This, as Representative Petrie mentioned, this is a key component of Governor Kemp's agenda. So I thank the governor for this, and I thank Speaker Ralston for giving this the priority that this bill deserves, and I would ask for your all favorable consideration. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Al Williams to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in support of this bill for many reasons, but I could not speak without acknowledging that as far back as 2005, Chairman Smith introduced a bill to do this very same thing. It didn't go anywhere. And around 2010, Representative Glanton introduced a bill that would do the same thing. It didn't go anywhere, but its time has come, and it's way past due, and I'm so glad to see it introduced now. Representing the largest percentage of military folk anywhere in the state, Liberty County and Fort Stewart, which certainly this is very, very important, very important. We have generations now that have retired in Liberty County. And we certainly think that this will be an incentive to keep more people in Georgia. Now, I really think that it adds to a long list of reasons, because I'll be very honest with you, it'd be pretty tough to go to Alabama or South Carolina because they have a tax deduction. I need a little more than that to reside there. But sure, somebody will get that after a while, Bruce. But I would certainly add this arrow to the quiver. It is important. It's important that these military people stay, because some of the great minds have stayed in Liberty County after retiring in Liberty County, have stayed in Georgia. Great minds. That's why we have such a brain thrust. And I know it's difficult for many of you who live in areas that don't have the type of military participation I have, and your brain thrust has been a little strained, but if you wanted help, you can come to Liberty County, where we certainly have it. I'm so glad to stand and proudly support this bill, because it certainly says that dreams deferred are not dreams denied. It's here now. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield the well.
Chair recognizes the Minority Caucus Whip, Representative Wilkerson, to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I come down to support House Bill 1064. And now I'm going to confuse everybody, because I'm going to ask for one additional thing. If I spoke to the author, and the bill excludes $17,500 in military retiree benefits, which is great. The second $17,500, you have to actually make over that to get anything at all. So I grew up in a community where my father was retired military, an enlisted man, and he decided to go work as social worker. And a lot of those jobs don't pay over a certain amount. So if you're working part-time with our kids, working part-time in the schools, you may not make over $17,500. So under this bill, you don't get anything. So what I would ask is that we exclude income up to $17,500 in addition if you work. So it's kind of complicated, I know, it's a tax thing. It took me a while to talk to all the CPAs, but basically what I'm asking for is this bill moves forward is for us to exclude everything up to $17,500 that you earn in income. And I think that would make this a perfect bill because my neighbors have been asking for this. My father, if he was still here, would be telling me I need to vote for this. And all the retirees that I grew up in New Jersey, right outside the Fort Dix Army base, would be asking for this. So I support the bill. I'm going to be voting enthusiastically a green button on that bill, on that board, but I'm asking that we change the bill to say, instead of exceeds, to say up to $17,500. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them, and I yield the well. Thank you.
No questions. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no. And the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? What purpose does Representative Prince rise?
Make a motion.
Make a motion?
I want to make parliamentary inquiry. Well, not even parliamentary.
State your inquiry.
Pursuant to House Rule 133, I ask to be excused from this vote.
Gentleman has that right, and the journal will so reflect. Have all members now voted? What purpose does Representative Gilligan rise?
Pursuant to Rule 133, I ask to be excused from the vote.
The lady has that right, and the journal will so reflect. Have all members now voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines on the passage of House Bill 1064. The ayes are 161, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 1271.
House Bill 1271 by Representative Burchetta, the 176 and others to be entitled an act to amend Title 44 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to property so as to prohibit covenants for a planned subdivision in the property owners association which infringe upon a lot owner's right to display the United States and Georgia flags. This bill has been referred to the Committee on Judiciary. That committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chair recognizes Chairman Burchett to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good morning, colleagues. I bring to you House Bill 1271. It's an easy bill, and more importantly, it's a quick bill. What this bill does is it prohibits HOAs from not allowing a property owner or resident from displaying the American flag. There's already a federal law, the Freedom to Display the American Flag Act, but this is a law that we would enact that would allow folks in the state to seek redress in the state courts. This is largely the same language as the federal law. With an addition, we put a floor on the size of American flag that can be displayed. So in other words, we didn't want an HOA to say we're allowing someone to display a flag if they were only letting them display a very small flag. It's a 4x6 flag. Secondly, I want to point out to you that I know that the rule sheet does say Georgia and the United States flag. The earlier version was Georgia and the United States. This is just the United States flag. And with that, I'm going to take questions or yield the will.
You have a question if you care to yield.
One question, I yield.
Chair recognizes Representative McLaurin to your right for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the chairman yield?
Yes.
Chairman, this seems to me to be a display of patriotism, and in the interest of thoroughly vetting the bill and making sure all interests are represented, did the committee give any consideration whatsoever to allow a Georgia flag to have this same type of protection? And by not, I mean the University of Georgia with the G.
Well, we didn't take that in consideration, but maybe I'd be amenable to it. Certainly the House would, but we'd have to make that change in the Senate.
Well, I guess it's a little looser over there. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I yield the will.
Gentleman has yielded the will. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? What purpose does Representative Beth Moore rise?
Parliamentary Inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, isn't it true that I support this bill in part because I am also a co-sponsor of Representative Fry's bill to prohibit HOAs from banning solar panels, because solar panels are, next to flags, one of the most patriotic things we can display on our homes as we transition to renewable energy to combat climate change.
Sometimes these parliamentary inquiries get into some pretty good rhetoric, so have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the passage of House Bill 1271, the ayes are 160, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 1346.
House Bill 1346 by Representative Ballinger, the 23rd and others be titled an act to amend Article 2, Chapter 6 and Title 15 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to clerks as superior courts so as to provide for construction and to provide for related matters. This bill having referred to the Committee on Judiciary, that committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chair recognizes Chairman Ballinger to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I bring before you House Bill 1346, and before I tell you the what of the bill, I'm going to tell you the why of the bill. I have a daughter. She graduated from law school. Didn't like practicing so much, so she went to work for our county clerk's office. There she's the chief county clerk in Cherokee County. But as the daughter of a retired veteran, she also wanted to be able to serve her country. Whenever she investigated the matter, she was found that she could not, per Georgia code. There was a specific statement saying that clerks of court cannot practice law now we get into the what. This bill specifically allows for members who are attorneys to be able to practice in the JAG Corps, and thanks to the thoroughness of our Judiciary Chair, also includes Space Force. So she might actually go and be a JAG Corps member for our Space Force, but all the branches of the military are listed. Mr. Chairman, that's the bill, simplicity at heart, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
You have no questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I urge your favorable consideration.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines on the passage of House Bill 1346. The ayes are 162, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 1056.
House Bill 1056 by Representative Hill III and others to be entitled an act to amend Title 47 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to retirement and pensions so as to repeal certain restrictions and requirements concerning the authority to make alternative investments for the Georgia Firefighters Pension Fund. This bill having referred to the Committee on Retirement. That committee recommends that this bill do pass.
Chair recognizes Representative Hill to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm sure a lot of us in here have family members who are firemen or associated with the firemen. This bill has the total support of the firefighters. It's not a physical bill. It allows them to take the alternative investments from 10% to 15%, and that's basically all the bill does, and it pertains only to the firemen. And with that, Mr. Speaker, the day is long, my time is short, and I yield the will.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. What purpose does the minority leader rise?
Parliamentary Inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, isn't it true that we're not aware of how much the amount of money that's going to go into this pension plan from 10% to 15%, what that amount of money actually is? That's going to be assets under management. Is that not true?
I don't know what you were given or not given. We could try to answer that by parliamentary inquiry.
Further inquiry, Mr. Speaker.
Let's try this. What purpose does Chairman Carpenter rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
basically, is it not true that this bill would just allow the investment pension fund to be able to invest 15% of their money into these alternative investment vehicles instead of 10%? Doesn't change money in or out. It just gives them another vehicle to invest that money. A more profitable, if you will.
Thank you. Further inquiry, Mr. Speaker.
I'm sorry?
Further parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Is it not true that the assets under management under this new plan, we have not learned what those assets under management would be? So it could be real estate, it could be debt, it could be a bunch of things, but we don't know what those assets under management could be, and that was not explained fully in the bill. Is that not true, Mr. Speaker?
Well, let's take a shot at Chairman Martin. For what purpose do you rise?
Parliamentary Inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, isn't it true that this fund has been able to invest in these for a number of years? Isn't that true? According to
If the
state
gentleman
law.
so states, I know that he is an expert in this area.
Isn't it further true, Mr. Speaker, that as the gentleman said when he presented the bill, that this allows them to invest a maximum of 15% rather than the current cap of 10% in these funds? And isn't it further true that we have good people managing these funds overall, and they would not do that if they did not think it was in the best interest of the people, the pensioners in the fund?
The gentleman so states. What purpose does Chairman Carson rise?
Parliamentary Inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, just in regard to what all the other parliamentary inquiries have stated or inquired, this, I believe that it is true. Is it not true that this does raise not just the amount to 15%, but that amount includes capital calls? And to the leader's question, it also allows for the firefighters pension fund to invest particularly in private equity during a time where equity returns have not been fantastic recently, and we're in a period of inflationary returns, whereas the bond returns, fixed income, are down. This gives the pensioners in the firefighters fund more flexibility under private equity. Is that not true?
If the gentleman so states. So what purpose does Representative McLeod rise?
Parliamentary Inquiry.
State your inquiry.
I just want to make sure that I'm getting this correct, that these are the same funds, the same investments are going to be the same ones we're using for just increasing the 15% from 10% to 15%, but it will be the same investment?
That is my understanding.
Yes. Thank you.
Have all members voted? Have all members now voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the passage of House Bill 1056. The ayes are 163, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 1219.
House Bill 1219 by Representative Houston and the 170th and others to be entitled an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 11 and Title 43 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to general provisions relative to dentists, dental hygienists, and dental assistants so to revise the composition of the Georgia Board of Dentistry. This bill having referred to the Committee on Health and Human Services, that committee recommends this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chair recognizes Chairman Houston to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House Bill 1219 changes the number of members to the Georgia Board of Dentistry from 11 to 17. 13 of these members are dentists. 1 member is not a dentist or a hygienist. 1 is appointed by the Board of Regents with direct knowledge of education of dental students, and 2 are dental hygienists. If there are no questions, I yield the well.
You have a question if you care to yield.
I'll yield for 2.
Chair recognizes Representative Jasmine Clark to your left for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentlelady yield?
Yes.
Thank you so much for this bill. I'm just curious, why are we increasing the size?
Well, I got interested in it because dental care is very scarce throughout not only rural Georgia, all of Georgia, and we need to increase the number of dentists. I had gotten a local dentist to donate his dental equipment when he was leaving and retiring, and I would work with my federally funded health clinic to open up a dentist practice in his office, and we can't find a dentist. There are not enough dentists in the state. I'm sure you're aware that Emory Dental School closed several years ago. We just have one dental school, and I hope through this we'll have more progressive ways of getting more dentists to come to Georgia and practice.
Does the gentlelady further yield?
Is it? Yes.
Thank you. I just want to clarify. So we're increasing the size of the board in order to try to attract more dentists to Georgia.
Well, I think we'll get some more progressive ideas maybe.
Thank you.
No further questions.
I lead the well.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? What purpose does Vice Chairman of the Majority Caucus Gravely rise?
Parliamentary Inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Is it not true that the gentlelady and my dear seatmate meant aggressive and not progressive?
Representative, I have never known of her needing help in translation. Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the passage of House Bill 1219. The ayes are 162, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 1308.
House Bill 1308 by Representative Williams, the 148th, and others to be titled an act to amend Chapter 24 of Title 33 of the Official Code of Georgia, annotated relating to insurance generally, so as to allow a plan sponsor of a health benefit plan to consent on behalf of an enrollee to the electronic delivery of all communications. This bill having referred to the Committee on Insurance, that committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chair recognizes Chairman Noel Williams to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today, colleagues, to present House Bill 1308, which is simply a communication by electronic forms for our members that are on health plans, different health plans throughout the state. This plan would allow employers to sign off on electronic enrollment and for employees to either opt out of electronic enrollments or to participate in electronic enrollments. This would be voluntary for the plan sponsor as well as the individual. This passed through the Insurance Committee, and if you have any questions, I'll yield the well.
You have no questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the passage of House Bill 1308. The ayes are 161, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 1182.
House Bill 1182 by Representative Taylor, the 173rd, and others to be entitled, an act to amend Code Section 3693 of the official code of Georgia annotated relating the sale or disposition of county real property generally and the right of certain counties to make a private sale. This bill having referred to the Committee on Government Affairs, that committee recommends that this bill do pass.
Chair recognizes Chairman Darlene Taylor to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members of the House. Today I bring you House Bill 1182. This is a major economic development for Grady County. It has been requested by the county. It's a long story, but I won't go into all of it, but for 60 years they tried to get a permit to build a lake and a dam, which they finally got from the EPA and the Corps of Engineers. It has been completed, and now they want to develop the property, and this was legal jargon that the county attorney felt would help them to be able to quickly get this done. If there are no questions, I'll yield the well.
You have a question, do you yield?
I will yield.
Chair recognizes Representative Park to your left for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentlelady yield?
Yes.
What impact would this bill have on Gwinnett, Forsyth, Hall, Dawson, and Lumpkin County that borders Lake Lanier, which was constructed in 1957?
I'm sorry, where were you saying it was from Lumpkin County?
What effect or what impact would this bill have on counties that surround Lake Lanier?
It has no effect on them. Actually, the law had been changed from when they first started the project. Appling County had some wording changed in the law, and this just corrects it. That's what this is. It doesn't affect anyone else. Thank you.
Thank you.
No further questions.
I yield the well and ask for your favorable consideration.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the passage of House Bill 1182. The ayes are 152, the nays are 10. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 1294.
House Bill 1294 by Representative Corbett of the 174th and others to be titled, an act to amend Code Section 447113 of the official code of Georgia annotated relating the government agent to assess abandoned mobile home, lien on intact mobile home, and derelict mobile homes. This bill having referred to the Committee on Judiciary, that committee recommends that this bill do pass.
Chair recognizes Chairman Corbett to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members of the House, I bring before you House Bill 1294, LC 393220. All we're doing here is allowing a government agency up to 3 days to post a required notice once a home has been, or a mobile home has been deemed unlivable or derelict. So we just give them 3 days instead of having to do it the same day. They requested more time. I would appreciate your favorable consideration. Thank you.
Do you yield for a question?
It's the hour's late, Mr. Speaker. I think I'll yield the well.
Even if one of them is Chairman Hogan.
For my friend, this has nothing to do with you being derelict. And obsolete.
Does the gentleman yield?
To my friend, yes.
How do you know what derelict is?
I looked it up in the dictionary.
Is that a house trailer?
A mobile home.
A mobile home?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the question. I yield the well.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. What purpose does Representative Tyler Paul Smith rise?
Parliament.
State your inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, is it not true this would apply to those trailers with the polyester curtains and the redwood decks as well?
I think that's a fair interpretation. And a velvet Elvis picture in the den. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the passage of House Bill 1294. The ayes are 159, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 1288.
House Bill 1288 by Representative Taylor of the 173rd and others to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 19 and Title 47 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating the State Employees Assurance Department so as to provide for the assignment of certain group term life insurance benefits to pay for funeral services. This bill having referred to the Committee on Insurance, that committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chair recognizes Chairman Taylor to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members of the House, I bring you House Bill 1288. This bill will allow the state retiree life insurance plans to accept an assignment of benefits to the funeral homes. There's been a problem with many times the funeral home is rendering services and not being paid for them. The assignment process is how most life insurance companies process these claims. The funeral homes must provide proper identification and notification and documentation. And also, you'll be happy to know that Representative Patty Bentley likes this bill. If there are no questions, I will ask for your favorable consideration and yield the well.
You have no questions.
Thank you.
We do have other members that wish to be heard. Chairman Jay Collins, you don't want to sign up. We got every other funeral director in the House lined up to speak. Chair recognizes Representative Bentley to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good afternoon, colleagues. I just want to come before you and let you know that I do support House Bill 1288. This bill will certainly help the entire funeral industry across the state of Georgia, the Georgia Funeral Service Practitioners Association, definitely the Georgia Funeral Directors Association. We all are in support. This is an industry bill that will certainly help families better take care of business in the event their loved one passes away. So I just want to let you know that I do support this bill. I'm very grateful for Chair Lady Taylor for working on this bill and all that voted on it in committee. So thank you.
You have a question if you care to yield.
Yes, sir, I will yield.
Chair recognizes Representative Al Williams to your left for a question.
Will the gentle lady yield?
Of course, I will.
Of course, with you having the assignments and guaranteed payment, those that are signed will get a hefty discount, won't they?
Their discount will depend on what type of hat that I wear to the service. The big hat or the little hat? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes Representative Rick Williams to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I do encourage everyone to vote for this bill. This just levels the playing field. This is the same as any other insurance assignment, whether it be for medical care, doctor's bills, funeral bill, whatever. This just levels the playing field, and I ask for your favorable consideration. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. For what purpose does Representative Bentley rise?
Mr. Speaker, pursuant to House Rule 133, I would like to be excused from voting on this bill.
Lady has that right, and the record will so reflect. What purpose does Representative Rick Williams rise?
I'd like to invoke the choke-us rule, Mr. Speaker.
Gentleman has that right, and the journal will so reflect. What purpose does Representative Wade rise?
Parliamentary Inquiry.
State your inquiry.
For future funeral home bills, can we have a new rule in next session for multiple funeral home Rule 133s at one time? Thank you.
Have all members voted? Have all members voted? What purpose does Chairman Jay Collins rise?
Pursuant to the choke-us rule, I ask to be excused from this vote.
Gentleman has that right, and the journal will so reflect. Have all members now voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the passage of House Bill 1288. The ayes are 159. The nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. House Bill 389 will be postponed until the next legislative day. House Bill 961 will be postponed until the next legislative day. Chair recognizes Chairman Efstration for a motion.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the House insist to its position on Senate Bill 120.
Chairman Efstration moves that the House insist on its position on Senate Bill 120. Clerk will read the caption.
Senate Bill 120 be entitled an act to amend Article 3, Chapter 18, Title 15 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to solicitors general of state courts so as to provide for the honorary office of Solicitor General Emeritus.
Chair recognizes Chairman F. Stration to explain his motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is the Ethics in Government Act that we passed at the end of last session. We used a vehicle, Senate bill that was pending in Judiciary to send it back over, and I'd ask that we insist on the position that was previously passed by the House. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Chairman F. Stration has moved that the House insist on its position on Senate Bill 120. Is there objection? The chair hears none, and the House has insisted on its position. What purpose does Representative Buckner arise?
To make a motion.
State your motion.
I wish to make a motion to move House Bill 1421 from Natural Resources to Ways and Means, and both chairs are in agreement.
Clerk will read the caption.
House Bill 1421 to be entitled an act to amend Part 2 of Article 3 of Chapter 8 of Title 12 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to hazardous site response so as to dedicate the proceeds of certain hazardous waste fees to the Hazardous Waste Trust Fund.
On the motion of the lady that House Bill 1421 be moved from the Natural Resources and Environment Committee to the Ways and Means Committee, is there objection? Is there objection? The chair hears none, and it is so ordered. We have some more local bills today, a fairly good stack of them. Chair is going to ask for unanimous consent that the rules of this House be temporarily suspended to allow this group of local bills to be read and assigned to committee, to be read for the first time and assigned to committee. They will all be assigned to intergovernmental coordination. Is there objection? Is there objection? Hearing none, it is so ordered. They are hereby assigned to intergovernmental coordination. The clerk will read the caption to a group of privilege resolutions.
Congratulating the Georgia Bulldogs and inviting head coach Kirby Smart to be recognized by the House of Representatives, recognizing and commending Armin Morris upon the grand occasion of his retirement, commending and congratulating Kyle Owen Rex, a member of the Boy Scout Troop 714, recognizing and commending Jalen Johnson, a Southwest Georgia African American leader, recognizing and commending Judge J. Mike Green upon the grand occasion of his retirement, recognizing and commending the Oliver Morton chapter of the Daughters of the American Revolution, commending the Georgia peanut industry and recognizing March 2022 as Georgia Peanut Month at the state capitol, and commending Scotty Raines, Georgia's 2022 Farmer of the Year, and for other purposes. That completes the reading of the privilege resolutions.
Is there any objection to adopting the privilege resolutions? The chair hears none, and the resolutions are adopted. We're going on now to announcements. If you have signed up for an announcement, be down here on the front row ready to go. Chair recognizes Representative Erica Thomas for an announcement. Like I said, be down here and ready to go. Chair recognizes Chairman Chokas for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. All the members of the Small Business Development Committee, we will be having a meeting tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. in 506, 8 a.m., 506, Tuesday. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Gullett for an announcement.
Governmental Affairs will be meeting today for the Subcommittee of Local Government, 2 o'clock, 506 CLOB. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Marin for an announcement. Representative Marin. Chair recognizes Chairman Watson for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Rural Caucus will meet at, upon adjournment, 201 Department of Ag. We've got Farm Bureau and Conservation Districts as our hosts. So thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Gamble for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock, the fellowship will meet in Capitol Room 133.
Chair recognizes Representative Erica Thomas for an announcement.
The Minority Caucus will be meeting via Zoom upon adjournment, and we also will have lunch will be served in 307 CLOB.
Chair recognizes Representative Marin for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good afternoon. Buenas tardes a todos. First of all, I want to take 10 seconds to thank you for all the wishes for speedy recovery of my injury that I had on Christmas at home. I'm not well yet, but I'm here. So for the second half of the session now, for this, tomorrow morning, the Georgia Hispanic Chamber of Commerce Legislative Breakfast, we should be celebrating 20 years, but because of COVID, we missed 1 year, so we're celebrating 19 years. We changed the venue to the depot. First, it was going to be at the Sloppy. Now it's going to be at the depot. So please come by and say hello to the members of the Georgia Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield the well.
That completes our announcements. Chair recognizes the majority leader of this House for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I move this House stand adjourned until 10 a.m. tomorrow, Tuesday, March the 1st, 2022.
The majority leader has moved that this House stand adjourned until Tuesday, March 1 at 10 a.m. All those in favor of the announcement will say aye. Those opposed will say no. The ayes seem to have it. This House will be adjourned until Tuesday at 10 a.m. Have a good day.